Sup, my dudes. Ever wondered why your audience is made up of certain personalities and some people just don't understand you and don't get it? That's because you are a specific personal brand archetype. In this video, I'm going to break down the 12 brand archetypes, why you should know your own, and why it's so important to understand your audience's archetype. So with that, let's jump into it. The reason you should know yours is it gives you clarity and identity. Archetypes give you the vocabulary and the energy of how you show up in the world. And when you know your archetype, you can stop chasing and trying to be someone else and double down on yours consistently. The hero doesn't try to be funny, the jester doesn't try to be all polished, and the sage is just the calm magnet energy. It's the tone, the visual style, and the stories that you tell that is your archetype. Every strong brand feels cohesive because everything from their photography, their color, their tone, their copy, all aligns with their emotional core. And it helps you be authentically different. An archetype helps you to deliver what not just makes you look different, but feel different. So two coaches could deliver the exact same coaching, but it's delivered very differently. The hero coach is like, I'm gonna push you to get to where you wanna be. And the caregiver coach is like, I'm going to hold the space and let you feel out your limits yourself. So let's jump into the chart and go through the different archetypes. So we look over here, you can see the 12 different archetypes and how they apply to well-known brands, which we all know. So starting on the right, outlaw, magician, hero, lover, jester, everyman, caregiver, ruler, creator, and innocent, sage, explorer. But how does this apply to personal brand? Starting off in the orange, we have the outlaw. Everyone knows an outlaw. Their core desire is revolution, breaking the rules, and challenging the status quo. Their traits are very bold, they're very disruptive and daring, and their voice is like, the defiant truth teller. And a really obvious one of this for me is Elon Musk. Elon Musk just gonna do Elon Musk things. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks. Next, we have the magician. Now, the magician is not to be confused with the sage, which we'll go into later. But the magician is someone like Phil Jackson. Their core desire is the transformation and the wonder. Their traits are they are a visionary, they're very insightful, they're very inspiring, and they have this like alchemic spirituality. And they're the guide. So you think of them, they are the guide to take the hero on their journey. The hero, the main character of every story. Their core desire is to prove their worth through courageous action. Their traits, they're brave, they're disciplined, they're focused, they're determined and very achievement driven. And their voice, they're always very motivational, they're very action orientated. So the action part is very important and they're very empowering. So MJ is a great hero character. Moving on over to the purple, we have the everyman. Now the everyman, that's literally in the name. It's relatable to everyone. Their core desire is the belonging, connection, and equality. Their traits, they're very grounded, they're very humble, they're very relatable. If you're for everyone, you're relatable to a lot of different people. They're sincere and defendable, and their voice is always very friendly and authentic. It's like, your mate next door. And I think the epitome of everyman is Keanu Reeves. Ultra superstar, but still just a nice guy that drives on the subway like everyone else. The jester's core desire is to live in the moment and bring joy. Their traits, they're very playful, they're witty, they're very spontaneous, and they're entertaining. And their voice is clever, comedic, and often they're very self-aware. So a good example is Robin Williams. The jesters are always the people that let our guard down, be a bit silly, make us not so serious. Obviously, usually comedians or funny characters. The lover. Marilyn Monroe is like the epitome of this example. They core desires is they're very connection driven, they're intimate, they're passionate, they're beautiful people. Their traits, they're very sensual, they're very warm, they're always expressive with their emotions, and usually pretty devoted, but not always, because that can where the sensualism, you know what I'm trying to say, where the desire can be through not being very devoted. Their voice, they're always very romantic, they're very heartfelt, and they're always relation driven. Moving on to the caregiver. The caregiver is always wants to help, they want to nurture and protect others. Their traits, they're very compassionate, they're patient, they're generous, and they're service orientated. Their voice is very warm and reassuring, and they're very selfish. So think Mother Teresa, anyone that is in health or charity, these kind of personalities are your caregiver archetypes. The ruler. The ruler, their core desire is like control, order, and stability, authority. Their traits, they're very confident, they're very commanding, they're very organized and decisive. And their voice, they're always very direct, they're very strategic, and they're very leadership focused. So for this, I have Layla Hormozi as our ruler archetype because she is a leader, and rulers are not to be confused with heroes. Heroes are leading from the front and just charging forward, where rulers are more taking charge and this is the plan. You and you go forth and do these things. I am going to dictate the battlefield from here. The creator. Think George Lucas, the man. They bring ideas to life. Their traits, they're very imaginative, they're always very expressive, inventive, and original, and some kind of visionary in a way. Their voice, they're always very artistic, obviously, innovative, and forward-thinking. So George Lucas, think like invented and solidified the sci-fi topic, and then goes on to make all of the best sci-fi films ever created. Star Wars, if you didn't know. The innocent. So the innocent, their core desire is like they always have this safetyness and happiness to them, and like they're doing what's right feel. They're honest, optimistic, pure, and simple morals, and their voice is always sincere, positive, and idealistic. One that comes to mind for me is Julie Andrews, not just in like the characters that she plays, and I know she can play not the innocent character, but when I think of her and when she speaks, I get this warm, safe, happy feeling, and that's the epitome of the innocent archetype. The sage. The sage is not to be confused with the magician. And let me explain the differences. So a sage, they want to understand and share their wisdom. Their traits, they're very analytical, they're very reflective, they're calm, they're rational, and they're knowledgeable. They're instructive, objective, and trustworthy. Now, the difference between a sage and magician, you go to a sage to receive knowledge and wisdom, but they're not going to take you on the journey. Whereas the magician, they're going to bring this knowledge and wisdom and then perform alchemy and go with you on your journey. And as a sage, I have Socrates because even now people are following his wisdom and going to him for understanding themselves and how the world works. And finally, the explorer. The explorer's core desire is freedom and discovery. Their traits, they're independent, they're adventurous, they're curious, restless, and authentic. And their voice, they're very inviting, curious, and experimental. Think Richard Branson, where, oh, it's never been done before, let's go. I'm going to go to the edge of the universe, to the edge of the ocean, to the edge of the skies, and you're going to come on this adventure with me? Let's freaking do it. So now you guys understand the 12 different archetypes and why it's important to know yours. Let's go into why it's important to know your audiences. So when you're selling to your audience, you're selling to an emotion, not logic. Yes, some people want to know all the little points and parts of why something is valuable or why they want something, but for the most part, they're buying the alignment to a certain archetype. So if you're like a hero and you're just doing the grind harder and you're trying to talk to an everyman, that it's just not going to work. Whereas another hero archetype, they will understand exactly what you're talking about and they want some of that. Understanding your audience's archetype helps you frame your messaging around the emotional currency that they're trading in. It also shapes your story strategy because different archetypes relate to different types of stories. So the lover connects with intimacy and aesthetics, while the explorer connects with like discovery and adventure. And the sage wants data and analytics and the frameworks. So when your content matches their core motivation, it lands so much deeper and harder. That's why knowing your audience's archetype is really important, because when you construct your offer, you're just talking to your archetype and you know what's important. But did you know the most powerful way to sell is to your opposite archetype? So if that video is out, click it, yeah, and let's go into it.